got a really nice looking piece of Flint River here, and we're gonna try to make something good out of it. Kind of a wonky looking spall, but that's not going to be an issue, I don't think. And let's just see what happens here. Now, this stuff is actually a little tougher than you might think. It looks super glassy, but it's it can need a good whack sometimes. So let's just try to get this piece bifaced out. I'm not as concerned with keeping all my width here as I am with keeping my length here. That's going to make a good platform right there. I want to thin this back out. That should come off of there in a little bit. We'll get to it. Big old flake. Overshot the other side, which most of the time isn't ideal, but on this I don't mind too much because I needed some of that other side cleaned up. That's kind of a nice ready-made platform right there. Let's send a big one kind of this direction. Try to take this hump out. So angling through instead of straight across, angling through, and I hope I can get that in it. I got a lot of it in it. Probably set up another one right there. Now this one I want to angle that way. Kind of dang, that ought to release. There it goes. Shouldn't do what I'm about to do, but I think it's early enough in the process and we still have enough width, or should I say thickness, for me to get away with this. Yup. So I got that weird broken off hump off of there. There's a hump right underneath my thumb right here that I would like to get rid of, so we got a nice deep platform there. Let's try it. I don't know why it wouldn't come off right there, but it'd come off down there. Not a big deal. We got it. I got most of those strikes from me messing up on it out as well. So no harm, no foul. Gotta be careful because this will step fracture real easy, and then you'll have a big old mess. Which I'm super familiar with, having a big old mess. As much as I hate to admit it, I'm notorious for doing that. We're getting down to something that resembles a biface now. We've still got quite a few areas to clean up. This stuff is really particular about how you set your platforms up. They better be right, and right all the way around. Angle, I'm going to try to run a flake across the back here. I want to stay out of that midsection for a few minutes. Try to get the base thinned out. The tip is quite thick down here. You don't want to have a thick tip and a thin middle, that's for sure. Okay, I'm going to switch over to the indirect, if for no other reason than it's just easier to get some of these wonky platforms off of here and work on this base a little. I don't like doing end strikes with the indirect percussion, much less with the direct percussion, so we'll just use this for now to see where we get, and then we'll maybe come back and do some addressing. What I want right now is a good flat preform, but I don't want any hinges on it, preferably, which is easier said than done, but I'd really like just a nice clean starting biface. have particular plans for this, and that usually does not go my way. I do a lot better if I just make a preform and then decide what I want to make with said preform, but unfortunately that's not really a sign of a good napper. You know, a good napper will be able to look at a piece of stone and tell you what they're going to make out of it for the most part. So, something worth practicing. I made a mess right there. Hopefully I can clean that up on this next flake. Most of it. The particular point I want to make, I don't need a ton of width, but I need some, and it needs to be thin. That dove so bad right there. But they all need to be thin. That's, I'm like really like things to be thin. I can live with like minor imperfections, but if it's thick, I beat myself up over it worse than anything else. I can live with flake scars that don't look quite right, or, you know, a point style where the notches aren't quite perfect. But if it's not thin, then I really hate it. For me personally. I don't know why. It doesn't matter because the artifacts weren't always thin. But they also weren't always uniform. I'm going to braid that a little more. That needs to be abraded a little more. I want to set up a platform right there. Sorry, I stopped talking. I got focused. But, kind of show you what we're working with here a little bit. We're getting down to a pretty decent platform. But the kind of stuff I'm trying to clean up are like these humps and bumps and get the edge looking pretty good. I want all this stuff out of it. This side, not bad. Right there, needs some work. That spot. This side, this needs work, this needs work, this needs work. Unfortunately, I can't just focus on one side. I have to use this side to set up platforms for this side, but this is the side that needs some cleaning up. And then the tip needs to be thinned out a little bit. I need to be very careful around this area. And I need to be careful about doing that. That is a kind of a low platform right there, but it should be able to take a flake. Yep, it didn't quite go far enough. Neither did that one. Just doesn't want to come off of there. It's okay, this whole little section back here needs some work. There it goes. That's not half bad, if I'm being honest. And we may have to pull the pressure flaker out here and get some of this. This back is a little thick. This tip is a little thick. Sometimes I like to take a break with the indirect and I feel like that'll come off from this side, but we need to get a platform set right up there to attack it. The other side of that's pretty clean, so we might as well. What was I saying? Sometimes I like to take the pressure and dress the edge a little, and what I mean by that is kind of that looks pretty good. What I mean by that is, like this spot right here where the edge is crushed, you can take the indirect and kind of take some flakes off of there, but sometimes it takes a little bit more than I'm willing to lose, or if it's tight on top, you don't really want to hit it right there. You don't want to hit something too hard for the indirect. With pressure, you can kind of pick at it and then have a decent platform. We did manage to set one up right there though, no problem. But sometimes I like to get the pressure flaker out for those problem areas. It prevents that kind of stupid stuff right there from happening. That was my fault. What happened right there was I hit too high above center line. So instead of, skimming, it ran in there and dead ended, which isn't the end of the world. It just, now I've got to clean that up, And the more time you spend cleaning stuff up, the smaller your point gets, whether it be narrower or whatever, it gets smaller. This is approaching the point of being pretty thin. And I don't really need to go any thinner, and I don't really want to lose any more width. So we're reaching a transition here between the thinner I get it, the more that's going to happen. We're reaching a transition period here between the pressure flaking and the indirect. We'll probably have to come back in with the indirect in a minute and play around some more. But I'm going to stop right there and do some pressure and clean the edge up, get our symmetry a little better. We'll probably lose some of this base. I don't know, maybe right there. And we'll probably lose some of this. So we'll probably end up with something resembling that when we're all said and done. Maybe a little bit less. Maybe that. And like I said, it doesn't need to be super wide. It doesn't need to be super narrow either. It isn't going to look right. But I can get away with a little bit of a smaller base than it is wide because of the point style it is. So we may leave the base alone and bring the tip kind of in here. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. We're speaking like it's already made, which it's not. We're not there yet. I want to get one more in here too after the pressure that's a little thick. I'd like to run one. If you see that flake right there, I'd like to set up a platform right here and run one basically down that old flake scar right there. Clean this hinge up. There's a touch of a hump there. So like there's already kind of close to a platform right here, but we're so thin I have to be almost level with it. So my platform really needs to be like down here somewhere. We'll see what we can do. Let's run over it all with pressure and kind of redress our edge here and take a look. If I see any problem areas like that, I'll intentionally try to establish a platform on them. A lot of this can be cleaned up with pressure though. It's pressure flaking pretty well, but like that's not going to be cleaned up with pressure. That's not going to be cleaned up with pressure, but this tip, if I'm real gentle about it, can be. And we've got quite a bit of profiling left to do here. So I should be able to get away with some more setting up, especially around the tip and base. Don't want to take the middle in too much further. Now this is the kind of stuff I think I can get off with some pressure if I go that way first and then come back, because that platform's favoring this side, but I need to get that hump off, but that hump is just right there. So let's see if I can do that. Yup, I got it. Not bad. I like it when I say I'm going to do something and then I do it, versus I think that means I'm starting to know what I'm talking about. You know, I think I've said it in other videos, but if you're watching me to learn how to flint knap, you're messing up. Probably should go watch some other people. If you're watching me purely for entertainment, well, thank you for one, and two, yeah, that's probably the proper course for this channel. entertainment. Just trying to thin out this base a little bit. It's pretty thick. About to put some serious pressure on it. I don't typically use the Ishii stick in the correct technique usually because I don't feel like I need it, and typically I can put quite a bit of pressure on it with just my hands, but if I go to squeezing my legs like that, pushing in on that thing, I can really put some pressure on it. But you got to have a platform that can handle it. A lot of times when I do that, it feels like it lets loose before I can really lay into it. It's pretty good. All right, so I'm happy with that overall. I want to run some more flakes across it in a couple spots, but we have a pretty nice thin platform. There's not a lot of step fractures. All this will pick off of there when I get around to doing it. I know it's kind of cheating, but whatever. I want to get this off right here like we talked about, and that's going to be a pretty good start. Everything else I can work my way through, maybe a couple more through here. I just want that edge just perfectly straight. I'm trying to do good edge work here. But again, I'm running out of room in the design of the point to be doing that. And what I mean by that is I can only lose so much more edge before it's going to be too narrow. And I can tell you right now, it ain't much more that I can lose. We can handle a few more flakes here and there, but I'm going to hit that really good again. It's going to want to crush really bad right there, I think. And we kind of have to be very cautious with... Oh, there it goes. I didn't even finish what I was saying. Very cautious with how much force we're hitting this with. Think of this as pressure flaking with the indirect stick. So we're not so much as trying to drive flakes all the way across this thing. You know, we're just trying to do some cleanup. Oh, the temptation to hit the back of this is there. I know better though. I'm not going to do it. I will come back and get it with the pressure flaker, and if it ends up being a little thick, it ends up being a little thick. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. As bad as I want to do it, it's not worth it. I'm taking really small bites. You indirect guys know what I mean. I'm pressure flaking that, guys. I'm as bad as I don't. I'm done. I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna get the pressure flaker back out. I've got 90% of what I wanted to get. At this point, I'm just picking. On something I shouldn't be just picking on. We also need to stop for a momentary pressure flaker resharpening. So bear with me on that front while I dig out a file. Look, I don't even have to dig it out, it's right here. Okay, pressure flaker resharpening. Thing is dull. That Flint River will chew your tools up. That's a lot better. It'll chew it up. It's tough. It may look super glassy and you're probably like, wow, that probably looks so easy to nap. I mean, it is, but it isn't obsidian. I can tell you that much. Think like agate. If you've napped any agate, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Agate looks so deceptively easy to nap, and then you hit it, and it's like hitting a piece of concrete. Unless it's heat treated. And you can heat treat this and make it super glassy, but it changes the color a little bit, and I kind of like it better in its raw color form. It just looks that much more. It kind of turns, not always, but it kind of turns milky, I guess, and loses a little bit of its translucence, I should say. Here's what we're going to do back here on the back. Since I can't stand it, we're going to take the pressure flaker, not that one that I just sharpened, but one of my 6 other ones here. And we're going to run some very thin, little narrow flakes across the base of this. If it's gonna let me. I'm so scared to hit it. It's doesn't. I'm being a wiener about it. Okay. Because I just didn't want to. I didn't want to go through all this work to make a fancy point, make something really nice, and then make a mess of it by leaving the base thick. There's certain things in life that need to be thick, but bases with semi-intricate notching, at least for me, is not one of them. So now we're just using this, just kind of clean up some more, maybe helping establish some platforms for some other stuff. It's not perfect, guys. It's definitely not as good as I've seen, but it's pretty solid. It ain't no jack crafty point, but Okay, we are back. I have done my research here and made sure that I know exactly what I want to make. So what we're going to make is a Hardin, and this one is a picture from Lithic Casting Labs, their website, but it's a real artifact. It comes from Illinois. The request was for a northern Hardin, so I'm from Florida, so Illinois is considered northern to me, for sure. Our profile is close as of right now. We have to bring the sides in a little bit, make sure them a little straighter, and go from there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this over here, and we're going to pull that picture up regularly to compare and make sure we're doing everything we should right. I drew some lines on here. I'm not sure how much of them I'm going to use or not, but let's get started. I'm going to bring this side in first. I'm also going to bring the base in some, probably down to about right there, little square. The base and the little wings that come off the side, from what I can tell, need to be almost the same width. So what we don't want to do is have, what am I trying to say here? What we don't want to do is, we want them to be the same width. Right now it's a little concave, I guess. The base would be a little concave compared to the rest of the point. Well, you'll see. I'll explain it better in a minute. Also, the edge work on these was really fine, so we'll see about trying to clean that up some too. The thickness or the thinness or whatever you want to say overall is pretty close. We're not too bad on that front, but this tang area needs some serious help. It's a little thick, it's a little wonky. Oh, dang. I'm trying to push big flakes. I am really resisting the urge to put the indirect stick on that. It's definitely there. I'm also trying to conserve as much of the width as possible at this point. I don't want to bring in the edges anymore. I'd rather sacrifice the length than the width. Okay, so we're going to start notching. We're going to come in right here. This is going to stay pretty much as wide as it is. We're going to come in right here, kind of convex in, and then come back down. So, and we're going to try to, we're going to really try our hardest to make this look just about perfect. That's a no-no word in Flint knapping, perfect, but I'm going to do what I can. So at the very base of the point down here, that needs to stay the same width, but it needs to come in like that. I'm sure there'll be, the more and more we go along, I'm sure there'll be more and more cleanup. And it needs to be a gentle sweep, nothing crazy. Doesn't need to look really out there. I'm going to switch tools here. Alright, I'm going to stop right there for now. And we'll go to the other side, and we may have to, this really needs to be a touch more in, but we'll come back to it in a minute. I'm also using this opportunity to run some long kind of thinning flakes in there. This side's going to be a pain in the butt because of that darn hinge right there on top, which we might get in to get it and we may not. We'll just have to see how it goes. And you may be thinking to yourself, well, didn't you just take flakes off of that same side that you're fixing to take flakes off of again? Yeah, I did, but it's still favoring that side. So I'm just doing some kind of using this opportunity to take flakes that need to be taken anyway. Try to pick that off of there some. Of course, the one bad hinge on the, really the worst hinge on the whole point, and I leave it right in the way. Happens like that sometimes. Okay, before we go any further, I need to sharpen this little steel flaker up. I'm going to sharpen it in kind of a paddle fashion. Where I can really get in there and kind of see what I'm doing. I need to look at my picture again here. So it's not quite looking right yet. I need to get that point there higher up. See how our wings are flat right now, and this one's wings are more of a point. We need to bring it in and bring it in. So let me see what I can do here. That's why it's important to have a reference, because it can be challenging to try to do all this from memory, and then it's the little nuanced portions of the point that really differentiate the style. That's a good start. You know, another thing is I know I'm not using the exact proper rock type for this, but there is Hardins this far south. They're just different, or at least as far south as this rock. I think they can be found in Georgia. They're just a little different than the northern ones. They're usually shorter, smaller, a little fatter. So this is a little bit incorrect, but yeah. I'll take what I can get. I'd like to get just a little bit further in there. On both of them. Just trying to think here about let me clean all this up a little bit and readdress it and see how I feel. Overall, I'm not that mad about it. It looks pretty good. I'd like this notch to be just a little better, but man, it's approaching on the cusp of being really hard to get to. I'm just taking little mini flakes here to try to refine that edge a little bit. Yeah, that notch right there is the one I don't like. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to get in there and kind of stalled it out a little bit right there. I mean, overall, that's a Hardin. Now, is it perfect? No. Definitely not. I'm going to do some more cleaning up on it and just kind of think about that notch in there. I want to try to get these edges perfect. Yeah, there's got to be something done with that. Problem is we're getting into that crap right there. That's why you can't leave those kind of, I hate to say it, but like, you can't leave those kind of mistakes in there. Because if you're, they're going to be in the way of something else or whatever. And unfortunately, part of learning how to nap is learning how not to do that. So if you leave them, you leave them. And then you got to figure out what to do with them in the future, which is the issue that I'm fixing to have. Is now, what do I do with them? Or how do I fix that now? Because we have to be very careful inside that notch. Not to break that ear off. And the little steel pressure flaker could handle it, but it'd sure be a lot easier with this bigger one. I've crushed that edge in there and made a mess, but let's see if I can. You don't want to stall your notches out like that. That's for sure. Just trying to be I think my best bet is to just go ahead and leave that alone, because if I don't, I'm going to break the ears off of it, and then this will all have been for naught. I mean, it's right. It just, I would like it just to be a little bit better, a little cleaner is all. But Sometimes it doesn't work out that way. This is my first attempt, so hopefully the next one I do will be better. Let's look at our picture again and see what we're lacking. Okay, so obviously, like I said, their notches are much finer. I blew mine way out, and unfortunately there's no good way to fix that now. And we just need to give that little fishtail to the base. I think that's going to help it out a little bit too. But like I said, once you stall those notches, you can get it out at the cost of breaking the whole point in half. And I don't really want to do that. I'd rather just kind of write it up as a wash and say, okay, I'll do better the next time I make one of these. I do like this point style. Alright, I'm going to leave it alone. I may pick at it some more off camera, but I'm going to call that quits. I don't love it. These need to be finer, but at this point, I am scared to fix it. I'd rather have it whole. It's still correct, it's just not as good as the one that I wanted to make. So, we'll just leave it at that. And maybe we'll revisit this point style in the future. So, if you have a point recommendation that you want to see me struggle through, recommend it in the comments, and we'll start doing some more of these. Or if you have a stone recommendation, that may take me a little bit longer because I may not have it. If I have it, I can just do it. But if I don't have it, I may have to hunt it down or whatever. But, you know, a point style I can make. Now, whether it's made out of the correct type of stone, who knows. But I'm pretty pleased with that overall. I think for my first attempt, it wasn't bad. I struggle with notching, so that's something I've got to work on. But we'll revisit this in the future and hopefully make a little cleaner one. Yeah. So feel free to leave some recommendations in the comments for different point styles to try, or rock types that you want to see me try, or whatever. All right. Thank y'all for watching. That is a Hardin